All right.
Not gonna lie, I'm a little worried I'm gonna knock this mic out just because I talk a lot with my hands. So
Do it.
I feel like I'll just be like.
All right, James, call it out.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the wonderful world of weddings. My name is Daniel Krikorian, and today we are talking with Yvonne Cola. Oh, damn it, I did it. Kaola Souza.
You make it harder than it is.
I know, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. It's just Kaoli Souza. Yep. Kaoli
So, if I didn't say it already, my name is Daniel. We are on the wonderful world of weddings. It is brought to you by Be Remembered, where you can have a wonderful wedding with us for photo, video, event planning, DJ, makeup, coordination, photo booth, all at BeRememberedWeddings.com. So let's get into our wonderful guest. Jesus, Christmas. It is about
I'm
that
a guest
time.
host.
You're a guest host. You're a host today. So Yvonne, tell us a little bit about what you do and where you got your start and Unique Melody Events.
Yeah. So Unique Melody Events and Design was established in 2015 after years of being all on the mostly food and beverage side of things, coming up in restaurant management and food and beverage director, and then doing kind of like a full 360 view with sales. And I just found myself in a position where a lot of my couples wanted my opinion on the planning side of things.
Yep. What
color linen should I do? What should my invitations look like? Who were great vendors for that? And I established a lot of great relationships with those vendors. So my then boyfriend, my now husband at the time, kind of looked at me and was like, that's so cool that you're doing this, but are you actually getting paid to do this? And I, was like, not really, but I love it. And so, Unique Melody Events was kind of born after a couple more years finishing up my experience at the International in Bolton, and then some personal things happening in my life where my mom lost her battle to cancer, actually, after several years. And so my mom was a unique individual, and her name was Melody. And so that's where Unique Melody and Events came to light.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. I really like that. Yeah. And it's actually a beautiful name too. It's it's perfect.
It's funny because I didn't really think about how much the name would develop into the company and vice versa. I actually service a ton of unique individuals and couples, and I love that. It's my favorite part. Right. I really love working with people who want to have and create a unique experience for their guests and have it be a true representation of themselves.
Yeah.
So, coming full circle to this business, to this name, it's really fallen into this brand of being unique for those clients and not being one type of brand or one style.
Right.
It's unique to each couple.
Yeah. What a wonderful name. That's so interesting how that came. I thought it was just a really good use of words, to be honest with you. So it all fits.
Yeah. It all just came around. It's weird. Huh.
Well, it's funny because the last two podcasts we've had on Alicia Groom, who is one of the planners here at Be Remembered, and she was talking about how to serve that couple in a unique manner as well. And that's something that I think planners are extraordinary at, because you have to get to know that couple on such a level to develop that relationship, because they don't even know what they want half the time. And I think that's one of the most challenging things in the wedding industry is you go out and we have this all the time with photo and video, which is the world I come from. And that is, I want this style. Oh, can you do that? And it's like, well, I can do anything. And my job is to actually make something that you love, not that I love, that you love. And you look back on and say, that was my wedding. That's my video. So that's a great way to get started. You're actually our third planning podcast that we brought through. And today we're going to be talking a little bit more unique into the planning process. It is funny though, because just a week ago, we were talking with Alicia about the difference of an event coordinator or an event planner at a location and the planner outside of it. Most of the time these venues will provide you with a coordinator. And like you said, you're doing a lot of work for the venue and helping that couple, but you're not really getting paid to do such a thing. And so transitioning out of it and going into the more personalized planning space is for the couple. And that's something that we were just distinctly talking about. A lot of people get those confused.
Right.
And I feel like a lot of places confuse that as well. They say, oh, we have a planner for you. And it's like, well, it's not for you. It's for the venue, but we'll call it yours.
Yeah. And you got to think too, they have so many couples. They have so many couples, so many things that they're doing and constantly doing site visits and all these other jobs and things. And when you work with somebody like that, that's trying to just like kind of go through the process, they're not really taking the time, like you said, getting to know you individually, getting to know you as a couple, so that way they can pair you with vendors that are the best services. They're really just like throwing their preferred vendor list because they're like, oh, this is the easiest vendors I love working with. They're the best ones. They're like, you know, so here you go. Here's a great photographer. Here's, you know, so they're showing them. And I mean, anybody can do that. Anybody can refer you a great photographer or a great DJ. You know, it's really just like getting to know the personality. You're really matchmaking. Yeah. Like you're getting to know those personalities of the couple, you know, especially in photography. I love to use photography as an example all the time because the different directorial styles, nobody ever thinks that. They look at the photos, they look at the editing styles, but they don't look and to ask about, oh, what does this photographer say or do behind the camera that makes those couples feel comfortable and gets those images.
And that's something, and that's a huge portion of it. And people don't understand, to get genuine feelings in front of that camera, you have to create a feeling of comfort with your couple. And that takes a very interesting personality. You have to, one, understand that couple on a level very quickly and get all of their friends and family to drop all of these pre-notions of taking pictures, which scares the hell out of people. They're like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. And, you know, and my favorite thing is when I get a couple to say, that was fun. And I was like, yes. Like you relax to the point where your photos are going to be great simply because you enjoyed and loved each other. It was great. So, but that's a difficult thing to do. And anyone can, not anyone. So I'm going to get in trouble there.
No. But a lot of people can take pictures. A lot of people can take quality pictures. But like you said, creating that experience, that ambiance, that environment that's like safe and comfortable, especially during this intimate day, this intimate time with this couple. It's like, you really got to be able to pair those people properly. And that's a process of getting to know them and what their likes are and dislikes. And like, even with music and DJ, it's like, do you want somebody who live mixes, or do you just want somebody who's like a hype man on the mic all the time? Or like, you know, because then people, they don't realize, they don't know what they don't know. So there's so many different types of things out there, so many different types of services. And can they have a great, it's like wedding planning is kind of like, you know, the Tic Tac commercials. Like, can you breathe without Tic Tac? Can you plan a wedding without a wedding planner? Of course. But I wouldn't recommend it because it can be stressful and you just want somebody to like keep it like low key.
Did you just make that up on the spot? I applaud you if you did. That's awesome.
It's just one of those things I always remember as a kid, the Tic Tac commercials. Can you breathe without Tic Tac? Of course not. I feel like that's every sales pitch. Can you do anything without my product?
Well, I always say too, there's a certain type of couple that can, that one can deal with the stresses and has the time to deal with the stresses, and they can get away with it. It's not as organized, but they can get away with it. But then I meet them instantly where they just don't have the time of day to handle a wedding, and they don't realize what they're getting themselves into. And we'll get the desperate call 6 months out being like, we just can't do this. Like, we need a planner. It's like, we know. We're here to help. Like, let's do this.
We're here to make it enjoyable. Like, we don't, and that's the other thing too, like in my services, and I'm sure like your team as well, like you don't want to strip them of the planning experience. There's some planners out there that will just do it all for you and just book everything and make all the choices and selections. But then there's a lot of planners out there that work with you, and it's more of an educational process. And then also just a process that helps you enjoy the planning, enjoy it, not feel overwhelmed or stressed or like not knowing or understanding what's happening, and not having to do all the time and research that goes into planning, which really what it is. It's so much communication. And if you don't know what questions to ask off the bat, if you don't know what to put in an email, in that first initial email, then you're going to have so much back and forth. And that's where people get stressed. It's like, oh, I feel like I just found this out like 2 weeks out of my wedding that my caterer isn't providing trash bags. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know.
You know?
But it's the questions they don't know to ask.
Exactly.
Right. And that's the biggest thing is like, you can create all the stress and you can go and do all this research. And if you do, again, I applaud you. Some couples have the time, they have the ability, but you've done this. You can go and say, oh, here's my checklist. I'm going to go through. I know the questions to ask. I know when to ask them. I know what to look for. And we can have a very smooth wedding. And again, it's that day of coordinator too. When that goes into place, there are problems that get put out before you even know about
For sure.
them. It's beautiful, right? And it's so funny. I have a couple being like, well, I didn't even know this was happening. I was like, yeah, that was the point.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're right. You didn't.
Yeah, putting out fires without anybody knowing exactly too. Yeah.
So on that note, we're going to put out this fire for about just a minute. We're going to come right back and talk a little bit more with Yvonne. Thank you everyone for joining us for this segment. We'll be back in just a few after these commercials, and we'll see you soon. Hey everyone, and welcome to the wonderful world of weddings. We're happy to have you back here. My name is Daniel Krikorian. I am your host. We are brought to you by Be Remembered, where you can have a wonderful wedding experience with photo, video, event planning, DJ, makeup, coordination, photo booth. I think I have them all, but we're going to get right back to it here. So before the break, we were talking to Yvonne of Unique Melody Events, and like that, I skipped the last name. Yeah. I just went straight for where you're from. Like, we're going to make this easier on me. Yeah. So we are talking about planning. Yvonne is a planner, and she is giving us a unique insight. Like that?
There you go.
That was nice, right?
Yeah.
All right. I've been trying. So in this segment, we're going to talk a little bit about wedding websites. There's a lot of W's in this world. Right? Wonderful weddings, websites. Right. It's a lot. Anyways, we're going to talk about them. So there are a lot of sites out there that you can actually build yours on. Now, do you build them for couples, or are you? Oh, you are building them for couples.
Well, not from scratch.
Not from scratch. Right.
I am using the templates. I am using the wedding websites as well too. I'm walking the couples through, what they need on there, what their guests need to see. I am utilizing all of their services, their softwares that come with them as well too. So especially for couples what's starting to trend a little bit more that are going for the Evites.
Yes. Actually, that was my next question. Yeah. How often are you using those Evites?
It's still a low percentage. So probably only about like maybe 15% of weddings, because people still like to have that tangible, and there's we have that demographic of guests that just kind of like need that tangible stationery. But I think it's starting to really trend more as the generations come up. Yeah, I do. I have mixed feelings.
Well, it's one less step for you, and it has to be nice to have it checked in. Oh,
yes
okay.
And no. Yes and no. I mean, you still have to do the process of kind of designing, right? I mean, there's templates, but just like stationery too, there's templates as well too. Right. I guess the one less process is like physically assembling them. Yeah. Physically assembling suites, but
and you don't have to lick the envelope shut like on Seinfeld.
Right, but you still have to get email addresses instead of physical addresses.
Sure.
You still have to go through the process of it.
Well, yeah, I guess that's a good point. I never thought about it. Yeah.
And I mean, it's like harder to lose. Evites are a little bit harder to lose. Yeah. But there's still something so personal, I feel like, too, that a stationary invitation comes with. Yeah. And you can really put anything. They're a little bit more customizable, I feel like. Evites.
Well, they're unique.
Yeah, they are. They're unique. And
I'm going to see how many times I can do that today. It's going to be a great time.
Yeah. I mean, all of these sites are definitely coming with the trend. They're starting to get into that and offering Evite services. Not all of them do yet. Okay. Like typically I usually work with Minted a lot for my stationery and wedding websites. Yep.
They do wedding websites?
They do wedding websites. Okay. Minted has wedding websites.
So that's funny because they're owned by Wedding Pro, who owns Wedding Wire and The Knot.
Yeah.
And so, wow. Okay. So you can basically Doesn't matter what website you're going to use,
Right.
you're going to be on them.
Yeah. I will. So, but the other things like a wedding wire comes with the whole, seating, like they'll do like floor plans and seating floor plans. So you really have to see what exactly, if you're totally DIYing your wedding, you have to take a little bit of time and research to see what offers the most amount of software and different types of tools for you at the free price.
Yeah, right.
You know, and then what the upgrades are.
Yep.
And then you have to do a little research in terms of cross comparing them because, you know, I use Minted because I also use my own software for creating custom floor plans and, you know, and bringing in uploading the guest list and doing seating chart. And so that's a completely separate software that I have for that.
Yep.
So I don't really need, you know, an all-in-one inclusive wedding service software to do all of that website and floor plan design and uploading invitations and things like that. But if you're DIYing, you have to ask yourself, okay, what are the things that I need access to? Do I want to create a floor plan? Do I need to create a floor plan? Does my wedding planner at the venue, wedding coordinator or salesperson create that at the venue? So those are like some questions that you'd want to ask, like what's included with your venue, what's included with maybe even like your tent provider if you're doing your wedding in your backyard. You know, who can help you with those things, so that way you know what software and tools you need and you can cross compare the different providers and see which one you like.
What are the major ones right now?
So for your typical is definitely Minted, Zola, Wedding Wire, that provides kind of like your invitations and then uploading your guest lists and keeping track of your RSVPs, those type of things, all in one neat place. Your own personal spreadsheet, and then also providing templates that are cohesive. So that way, like for instance, if you really like to design on Minted, your invitation, website, personal app, they all look the same. It's all one cohesive design. But if you're starting to go more on the Evite side, because Minted offers Evites, but I think it's just for parties right now. So they don't have like an actual wedding website. That's cohesive with their invitations. I think they started on the party side to just kind of feel it out. And so what I've come to find is wed sites has been kind of a little bit more popular, and they have like a starting free program that you have access to a free website and free invitations and also like your software management of your RSVPs. But then they have like a whole planning side as well too, that kind of like helps you keep on track of your planning, helps you. And I mean, I haven't experienced it. So I don't know how great it is in terms of like DIY planning your wedding, but I'm just saying like it offers kind of like a full 360 access for you in terms of having everything managed in one space.
And so what's your favorite site to use?
I'd say probably more wed sites because it has the full Evite and wedding website and planning tools all in one space. But I also, I personally, like with my couples, tend to use Minted a lot.
Do you? Yeah. And it's funny because I never thought of Minted for their websites. I get a lot of invites through the Knot. And I've seen that work pretty well. It's a pretty basic site, which is the only thing. I don't know what the back end looks like or looks like to the couple. But from from a guest standpoint, it was pretty simple. And I thought, oh, this will work. And the only thing is I thought it put it on my calendar, but it never did. And like 2 days before, I was like, oh my God, I have a wedding. I was like, oh no.
No, again, like those, I mean, I don't typically tend to use those as often just because they are also for the like DIY couple in the sense that they tend to find all of their vendors on that site. Right.
You know,
that's where they use that, why they use that platform in the first place is to like research and find vendors.
Yeah.
But because I'm providing that service, I don't really have the full need of those things. Right.
Right. But it is funny because I do get a few planners who reach out through those sites and I'm like, hey, yeah. Hey, my couple is, and I could tell they're like full planning, doing everything from start to finish. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I was like, send the contract to me. My couple doesn't even know who you are.
Most of your reviews are on there, right?
Right.
So
exactly. Yeah.
they're definitely like going through reviews and like I could see them utilizing that as a platform.
Sure.
I've used it as a platform before as well too, you know, obviously. But at the same time, like when I reach out to my vendors, it's still like a vetting process if I'm working with them for the first time. I don't typically reach out to them directly on those sites. Like, I'm usually just using it as like, oh, let me look at their reviews.
Or portfolios too. That's another big one. Yeah. So for the couple though, this is the only question I have. I haven't looked at a lot of people's wedding websites, meaning I just don't care.
Yeah. You don't need to because you have all their information on a sheet that's like they pre-filled out.
Well, fair enough. But even my friends, which is terrible, they're like, hey, here's this link. I'm like, yeah, all right. Like, I'll see you at the wedding. I know what you look like.
Okay, but your partner probably has.
Yeah, she probably has, but
so your partner
not probably. She definitely has.
Yeah. Because she knows that's where the information is. Because you're going to do this. You're going to sit on the couch and you're going to say, hey, what time are we going to be there? And guess what she's going to do? She's going to know. She's going to know. Why? Because she's looked at the website. She's researched how far it is. She knows how long she needs to get ready. All the things.
I will neither confirm nor deny any of this.
I just got off vacation not too long ago with my husband, and I created, and this is something that I don't usually do in my personal life as much because I am a planner and I do this professionally, but I created a full itinerary. I had a whole Google sheet, documented sheet, because there was several family members that were going on this. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to put a spreadsheet out so that way it's all together. All the information's there. Anybody can access it anytime. Yep. So I had the whole itinerary, the timeline, the ticket, the airline information, everything, all the things there. And the running joke throughout the entire vacation is anytime somebody asks a question, because this was always my response, anytime somebody asks a question, did you look at the Google Docs? Did you look at it's the same thing for wedding websites. Did you look at the wedding website? Did you look at the invitation? Because you create that things as forms of information. So if you have a question, please turn to the resources provided for you.
That's a fair point. Well, on that note, we're going to take a quick break so I can regroup and we'll come right back. All right, guys, thank you for joining us here on the Wonderful World of Weddings. We'll be back in just a second.
Every step, writing stories that seek to be read, taking hold of the moment as we discover every color filled with wonder. Now we finally see we got everything we need. Here we go. All we need is an open road and a chance to see a never-ending world that's beautiful. Here we go with the sunlight on our skin. It's a brand new day. It's ours to take and we will let it in. This is where the adventure begins.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Wonderful World of Weddings. My name is Daniel Krikorian. Thank you for joining us for part 3. We are here with our planner, Yvonne, a wonderful planner, Yvonne, of Unique Melody Events. And we were just talking about how terrible men are at
that wasn't the full
weddings.
topic of communication.
No, it wasn't a full topic. We actually talked about websites, but we're all pretty bad at weddings. So
it's why we create websites, right? It's like why do we have wedding websites?
Yeah. And we found that we don't really pay attention. So
no, it goes back to the good old rule of like men stereotype of like men not asking directions. Like you don't want to ask directions, you don't want to look at the wedding website. Like,
and then we just ask the significant other of what we're doing that day.
Exactly.
Oh, that's when we should put pants on. Great. Okay, we're going to do that. So anyways, we are Why do you have a wedding website?
Yeah.
You know?
You have it because so people, when they ask the question, instead of them calling the couple or, asking their significant other, they can actually look it up on the website and look at those resources. And typically the biggest things you want to have on your website are things that you don't want to add on to your stationery.
Sure.
So your invitation typically really should only be the invitation to the actual ceremony and reception and have very light information on that.
Right. It's more to be pretty and unique, right?
Yeah, it's traditional. It's also meant to be kind of like a little bit of a keepsake for people, but it's supposed to be clean and simple. And you also too, as a couple, you don't want to be spending money on formal pieces of paper that just has loads of information on it, like their accommodations and transportation and all those little details, what to wear. Like you want to keep that information on the invitation as clean and concise and simple as possible. And so once you have that basic information listed, where, when, what time, like all of those things, then you should really put anything extra on your website. So that way you're not paying for the additional postage. Postage is getting expensive. It's getting expensive, people. You weigh your invitations. They go by weight. So the more information you put in there, the more
just
you're paying.
weighing it down.
Yeah, you're just weighing it down with information. The more you're going to pay.
By the time you're done, it's going to be metal.
Sometimes people don't think about that. They don't put that in their budgets. Like they're never like, oh, we should budget for stamps. Like, it's like, yes, you need to budget for stamps.
Well, especially if you have a huge guest list.
Yeah.
Which is our next topic.
Yes.
I think I'm on fire today with these. I just need that to be pointed out. Transitions, they're killer. But yes, so, all right. So I know they're so expensive. And if you have 200 guests, that's going to add up.
Right.
It really is, especially with all the envelopes, all of the ridiculous paper and all the weight that you can choose from, which it is endless. But Minted has done a better job of organizing this, right?
For sure. Yeah. And I mean, like you can have like little accommodation cards and things like that too, but people need more information in terms of where and when, especially on how unique and different weddings are getting.
Sure.
Like I love my summer camp weddings. Those are my favorite, my summer camp weddings. But realistically, they're like a full 3-weekend destination wedding, because there's so many things. You get the campsite for the whole weekend and people can come early and they need to know like what actual camp. Oh gosh, what is it called? No, so it's like a summer camp. So they're like little tent bunks. What are they called? The bunks, like the actual like assigned cabins. There we go. That's the word I'm looking for.
We got there in the end. That's all that matters.
Cabins. They need to know what cabin they're located in. They need like a whole map of the grounds. They need to know where like the boat rentals are and all this. So there's so much information that you need to put out there, and it's just so accessible if you just put it on your website. Just put it on your website.
But the real question is, how many guests should you actually even invite?
Yeah. So when you go into your guest list, and so I'm going to divulge a secret.
Okay. Give it to me. What do you got?
This is a unique Melanie event planning exclusive.
Exclusive.
Okay? This is
all right,
my number one.
You do know we're on the radio, right?
Budgeting. I know. I'm sharing this with you guys. And you all have access to this. If you're listening and you're planning your wedding,
just keep playing it back.
The golden ticket. All right.
Give it to me.
Your guest list is your biggest expense. Boom. There it is. Your guest list.
Mic drop. We're done. Leave. That's it.
Your guest
Figure it
list
out.
is your biggest expense. That's your biggest. Okay. Because now, if you're going from a 50-person wedding to a 100-person wedding, those are two totally different types of venues. Those are different types of venues that are accessible to you. If you're having a backyard wedding, those are two different size tents.
Catering.
There's
oh my God.
2 different size dance floors.
Yep.
Catering is just that's what everybody thinks about. They're like, oh yeah, plate per person. It's like, no, it's not just plate per person.
Right.
It's also an additional table rental. It's an additional centerpiece. It's an additional favor. It's an additional. Your guest list is your biggest expense.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's what it is. So how many people should you be inviting? I don't know. What's important to you?
What's your budget?
What's important
How are we
to you?
going to break this apart?
What's your budget? If you're on a budget, you really need to assess that.
Yeah.
You really do. Because if it's important to you, if it's a priority to you to have all these people throughout your childhood, your entire life, that half of them you don't even talk to anymore. If it's important to you to have those people, then you better consider the rest of the factors in your budget.
Right.
What kind of catering are you going to have? What kind of, are you going to be able to afford that $7,000 photographer that you've been dreaming about?
Right.
What time of year? What kind of venue?
Yep.
Like, you need to really prioritize. And at the end of the day, like, my personal rule of thumb, and everybody can take this how they want to, but is, why are you inviting people that you don't know?
All right. If I walk up to you and you're introducing me for the first time,
this is my wedding day. This is your wedding day.
Just don't get it. Why?
Just because there's a formal introduction, and people don't even do that anymore. And this is my favorite, when a couple, and I ask all my couples this, are you being formally introduced in the room? And my favorite couples are the ones that say, why? Everybody knows who we are. Like, yes, thank you. I'm glad everybody knows who you are. It is your wedding. It is your wedding. This is not a prom. This is not this is your wedding day. The two of you, we're celebrating your love with people that you love.
Yep.
With people surrounded by people who love you.
You know what? Her whole argument to this, okay, and help me. I need a woman to combat it. Okay. Her argument is she feels guilty not inviting people.
Okay. The guilt thing. Okay. So here's the thing. Going way back to tradition and weddings back in the old days, in the days, like where the tradition of wedding comes from, right? Is like literally brides were being sold off for a parcel of animals.
That's way old. Yes.
Okay, that's like way back. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
As it moved up, though, it was a combination of two families coming together.
And it continued as a combination of two families, and it continued as, but they were always like pretty much strangers, right? Like, these were people that were strangers coming together for the first time.
Because they couldn't travel as much. That was the whole thing.
Sure.
And you see this in the Indian weddings, the Hindi weddings that are occurring now.
Yeah, sure. But then you also ended up having a little bit over time where, like, okay, these weddings were hosted by parents. And now we don't really, like, we do every once in a while, but a lot of it is couples. These couples are fully paying for these weddings. They're fully hosting these weddings on their own.
Yeah.
It's not being hosted by mom and dad. It's not being hosted by grandpa's money. Like, it's their money. It's their money. And maybe they're getting a helpful hand by somebody. They're maybe like, okay, mom's going to help, pay for the photographer or help pay for this. It's like, okay, thank you, mom. And for that, like, I will allow you to invite your best friend that I've known. You know what I mean? Like, of course I want your friends that I've known and like been a part of my life, but like, there can be some like honor, respect in return to say, like, okay, like, you can have a couple more people on the invite list. But at the end of the day, like, you're adhering to a budget and you're prioritizing to that. And it's what's important to you. Do you really want to be introduced to somebody for the first time on your wedding day?
I mean, personally, no.
No.
I don't want to look around and see anyone I don't know.
Yeah.
Unless it's a random case where, they're best, like her family is from Italy.
Yeah.
I know a few of them. I've been over to Italy, but some of them will come over that I've never met. And you know what? Fair enough. But
but that's family.
It's an extreme, right?
That's family. And that's also your significant other knows who that is.
Yes.
Like, there shouldn't be anybody that both of you don't know.
No.
Like, okay, like that kind of goes into the +1 situation, right?
Right.
It's like,
which is a great thing to bring up, actually.
And so my advice on the +1, like, is, okay, the question to ask yourself is, the person you're inviting that you're debating if they need a +1 or not, are they part of a friend group that is going to be present at the wedding? If they are, don't worry about a +1. They're going to have other people to communicate with. Are they part of a professional group that's going to be at the wedding? Yes, they know at least 3 of my coworkers. Great.
Right.
So they have, as long as they have people that they already know outside of yourself, outside of yourself, then they're going to have people that are going to be able to introduce them to other people. They're going to have people that they can have a natural conversation with. They're going to be able to be sitting at a table with people that they already know. And they're not going to be a complete stranger at your wedding from everybody else besides you.
That's a great point.
And if the answer is no, then okay, all right, I feel bad. You could have a +1, like bring somebody, but it would be great if you brought somebody that I know.
Right.
You know, it would be great if you brought somebody that I know. So, or maybe introduce me to them before the wedding. Like that was my personal thing. I said, nobody we don't know at the wedding. We had some friends that were in newer relationships for a decent amount of time. But I said, hey, guess what? You got to bring them over for dinner before the wedding because like, I don't want to meet anybody for the first time.
Yep.
And so that would be my advice.
No, I totally understand that. Well, we're going to take a quick break here. It's a great place to stop, and we'll be right back in just a few minutes, and we'll be talking a little bit more with Yvonne. My name is Daniel, and we are on The Wonderful World of Weddings. Thanks, guys. Hey everyone, and welcome to the wonderful world of weddings. My name is Daniel Krikorian. This show is brought to you by Be Remembered Weddings, where you can have a wonderful wedding experience right here for photo, video, event planning, DJ, coordination, makeup, photo booth, everything all in-house at BeRememberedWeddings.com. Make sure to check it out. And if you want to or need any advice for your wedding, you can actually go to BeRememberedWeddings.com/podcast, where you can fill in our inquiry form and let us know if you have questions. I can bring back on planners like Yvonne to have us help out. But right now I'm joined with Yvonne of Unique Melody Events. We are having a lovely discussion about all things weddings, but mostly about websites, guest lists, the craziness of wedding traditions that are occurring right now in our society.
All good things. All good things.
All good things. All good things.
Yeah.
We were just talking about you. A little frozen line. It's fine. But one thing during the break we talked about that actually I want to continue. I not to throw us both off here, but this A-list, B-list thing.
Yeah.
So what is it? It came from COVID.
It started in COVID where we had venues that opened up capacity to a limited amount of guests.
Okay.
And so you were only allowed to say like invite 50 people.
Mm-hmm.
So you started with your 50 people most intimate guest list. And then you had a secondary list of guests that you would have loved to invite. But unfortunately, due to COVID capacities, you couldn't.
Yep.
So as soon as you got a no from a guest, you invited somebody off the B list. And this is something that's always kind of been around, but was a little bit more acceptable with COVID because people were a lot more understanding. Nobody took offense to getting a late invitation after they already know you sent out invitations. They weren't offended by it. They were totally understanding. And they also just felt like almost a little bit more appreciative if they got even a B list invitation because they knew it was like such a small, intimate, select amount of guests that you could invite.
Yeah.
So I think having that as an option too for couples who are adhering to a budget and your budget only allows you to have a certain capacity of guests as well too.
Right.
Starting with an A list and then only sending out B list invitations. This is definitely something that I've worked with my couples with on as well too, because if you're working with a strict budget and that's all that it allows, like I mentioned, your biggest expense is your guest list.
Yep.
So if you start budgeting out a wedding at 100 guests and all of a sudden like you became BFFs with this girl at work or, some of your childhood friends just came back in your life or whatever the case is, you realize you forgot your mom's best friend or whatever the case is.
From high school.
Yeah. Then don't be afraid to like wait for that no before you send out the invitation. Because also it's just kind of like the way the world like works a little bit right now at this time. It's just it's
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I understand it. I think from a budget perspective, it's phenomenal because it actually tells you like, hey, there's a possibility of these people. Because if you have to budget for 100 people, but you know for a fact that, and most of the time too, you're sending out 100 invitations and only 80 are getting back to you or able to go.
Most of the time, right? But before COVID, that was the case. You always had this like 20% attrition. Like everybody like, oh, don't worry. 20% are not going to show up. 20% are going to say no. Don't worry about it. Like, right.
Yeah.
But I mean, not since after COVID. Everybody's like, get me out of here. Let's go. Let's party.
I want to party. Yeah.
Like, I don't care if I have to take 8 planes and 2 trains and whatever it takes. Like, I'm going to be there, like get me out of the house. Give me a night away from the kids or whatever the case is. They're just like, they're down. So attritions don't really exist as much anymore. You can't depend on that like 20% or that 10%.
So
like, I don't even know how many of my weddings last year that were like at 99%. It was just like people want to go. They want to go. So you kind of really have to wait for that no in order to be like, all right, let me extend this. Let me extend this guest list. It's hard to say like, oh, I can only bring 120, but I'm going to invite 140.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you have 140 at your wedding and you're like, oh, wait a minute. I spent an extra like almost 10 grand on the rest of these people.
Right.
Whatever the case is. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That's crazy. That's a great point though. I didn't know that it went up that much. That's insane.
For sure. I had a destination wedding in Miami where everybody was from, they were from all over, but primarily from Boston and then also from like Africa and just like all over the place. And they're like, oh yeah, we're going to invite like 150, but we're only probably going to have like 100 people show up. Maybe that it's if anything, because this is a destination wedding, like people are going to show. And I was like, are you sure? I'm like, he's like, yeah, we can't do the whole AB thing. People are going to take offense. It's going to be bad. Like, but we know, these people aren't going to show. They're not going to travel. And
lo and behold,
we had like 140 people. Like I was jamming tables in that room, jamming them. Like it was pretty snug. It was pretty snug. It was a snug fit. Like we made it work, but it was just a little bit snugger than I would have preferred.
Jeez, that's too funny. Well, on that note, do you have any great stories for people that, maybe people can learn something from? Because God knows I have some.
Yeah. I mean, it's so hard to think of just one. It really is. I think altogether, it's really just at the end of the day, like creating a planning experience for yourself that's enjoyable with your partner is the best thing you can do. Not to say that like planning weddings breaks people up. I don't think that. No,
but it can be a lot of stress.
Yeah, it
definitely
could be a
lot of stress.
It could be a lot of, and sometimes a lot of stress on one versus another. And I think overall, my best experiences are when both, like each person in the relationship, the partners are very into the wedding and very excited about it, and contributing. Yeah. And I think the only way that they are both like that is when it's truly a representation of the both of them. Sure. Not just one versus the other, or not just a parent. Like, And I've had grooms that like have built custom bars for their wedding, and I've had, like, that's so cool. That's so exciting. And they're so gung ho about it. They're like, yeah, I built this bar. I'm like, yeah, you did. Like, it's so cool. Like, it's legit. And like, it's just, it doesn't matter, but if both partners are genuinely excited and are genuinely represented in this wedding, like this celebration of the two of you, that's the best part of planning. That's the best part. Yep. It just like all together makes everything so enjoyable and a little bit smoother because there's effort from both parts. Yep. And yeah, just truly don't, like, everybody loves Pinterest and Instagram, and yes, you can get so much inspiration and cool ideas from it. It's so cool. But I hope your takeaway from those things are, okay, here's some really cool and different ideas that we can utilize to express ourselves. Yes. To create, an overall image of the two of us. Like, on that note, should I do my plug now?
I think you should. And I think you should be shameless about it. So just go for it.
Cool. Yeah. No, I just like, Unique Melody Events and Design was something that was, when I started it, primarily mostly coordination. I started in coordination, and I got to do some planning and some designing. But along the way, I discovered myself and my brand and my business, and realized like I was the shepherder, like the shepherd. I'm the shepherd planner. So my style and my business, I have a full team of coordinators too. I have 5 coordinators, and then I have some assisting coordinators on our team as well. And I'm the lead designer and planner. And what I've come to find is that my style of planning is, I'm like that person that leads you through your planning.
Yep.
Like I'm the one that teaches you a little bit about the wedding industry as a whole and the type of vendors that are out there. And then I help you kind of like express yourself and plan, and I guide you through that whole process. So that's what it looks like for me. And you can find me on Instagram. I was going to
say, where can we find you? Yeah. I
have a wedding website. I have a website.
Well, you better have a wedding website if you taught all these people how to do it.
So at www.uniquemelodyevents.com. And you can find me on Instagram at Unique Melody Events. And you can see all the fun behind the scenes stuff. My season's pretty much wrapped up, but I'll start again next year in March.
How many couples do you take per year?
So I personally try to take no more than 6 for full planning. And then on average, we do about 60 weddings a season between myself and the team, between coordination and some partial planning as well too.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. We really thank you for coming out.
This has been fun.
I didn't know any of this, so it's always great to learn more.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially from a unique perspective.
Yeah, and I got to learn some like production stuff.
She comes in, we're completely redoing the studio. It's fine.
It's cool.
But yeah, so it's been a pleasure. For everyone out there who is listening, if we missed something, if you can always contact Yvonne, but you can also go to beerememberedweddings.com/podcast, fill out our inquiries form, ask us any questions, suggest guests. We don't care. We'd love to have your feedback. We want to hear your stories. Stories are always fun.
Love stories.
Stories are great. Oh my God. I have one from this weekend, but I have 2 from this weekend, but they're not going on air.
We'll be talking about that after this.
Yeah. So maybe we should do a behind the scenes afterwards. But anyways, so definitely let us know. And then remember, the show is brought to you by Be Remembered Weddings, where you can have a wonderful wedding experience. So go on to beerememberedweddings.com and build your custom package today. And for everyone, we are so excited to have you here on the wonderful world of weddings, and we will see you next time. So take care, guys. Have a great day.